guys are ready.
Okay, yeah, and you press the record button and we're good to go. Okay, so anyway, Wade, Payton, great to be here. So I'm happy to answer any questions for the Beacon Club, and it sounds like a great organization.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Rydell, for taking the time to speak with us. So we're going to be discussing communicative disorders, specifically, things relating to speech or language impairment. And so I guess what we want to, or what would benefit the members of Beacon is how we can not only understand like what a speech communication disorder is, but how can we apply this to our own lives? How can we be better advocates and better supporters just in the lay sense? So if we were to come across someone with, something like aphasia or some other communicative disorder, how could we support them? How could we, advocate for them? And just some general like things to know in that, quest to be better advocates and supporters.
Sure, absolutely. Absolutely. That's a great question. Well, first of all, I think one of the things that's, really important is to understand that there are many kinds of speech and language delays and disorders. And so getting to know the person first is so important. So basically, the three of us could turn off our sound right now and mute ourselves, and we could still communicate. We could still communicate non-verbally and through our gestures and our face and our body motions and things of this nature. And so we can connect, and communication is all about connection. So words, when we talk about verbal words, this here represents this. We talk about what we know. And so getting to know the person is the first thing, and don't have any a priori ideas or impressions about who that person is. Like, oh, you have aphasia, so this means you can do this and you can't do that. Or you have a stuttering issue, so that means, and then you start filling in the blank like you already know what the person is capable of doing and not doing. So getting to know the person first is so, so, so important. I can't tell you how many times I've talked to people and people are like, they're talking about me right now, right in front of me, like I'm not even here. They're assuming that I don't have intelligence, or maybe I have a real significant cognitive delay because I can't talk. Well, there's a lot of reasons why people can't talk, aphasia again being one of them. Sometimes the brain is really intact, but what's the problem is that there's like a circuit breaker between what I know I want to say and what I can say, and this isn't working for me. There's a breakdown in the circuitry. Or kids who have like apraxia. These are kids who are intelligent, normal or above normal IQ, but for some reason, this isn't working right in here. Your lips and your tongue and your mouth aren't working to produce sounds and words the way we normally would do it. And so what I'm saying is that you can't make judgments about people who have a communication disorder based on what you think you know. Getting to know the person first is so, so, so important, because what they want is to have confidence in this interaction with you. Wade, I just met you just now. Payton, I know you, from last class and from the things that we've been doing. So Payton, I know you better and I can talk to you on a different level and we can communicate. Wade, I just got to know you. So my job really as a patron on the street with someone who has a communication disorders is to get to know them first and get their confidence in you, that you're not going to provide any kind of judgment or an idea of what I think you're capable of doing. And confidence is everything with people who have a communication disorder. They want to be confident with you and to know that you are going to listen to them and not try to talk for them or speak for them or talk about them like they can't communicate or they can't think correctly or they have some kind of a cognitive delay. That's actually, Wade, the very first step in what you should do if you meet someone on the street or you're in a group. Just get to know them and sit down next to them, and you don't even have to talk. I do a lot of work internationally, and I love doing that. Payton, you know this. I work a lot in China and Argentina, and I'm not really good at Mandarin. I mean, I really, matter of fact, I'm horrible at Mandarin. I know a couple of words, that's it. Spanish, Argentina, I know a little bit more. But what we could do is I could communicate with these people all day long and get to know them really well without saying one word. And so I would use that as an analogy for some of the folks in the Beacon Club is to try to get to know the person first. And then later, you'll find out, they'll let you know what they're capable and not capable of doing and following their lead as opposed to making some a priori judgments about what they're capable of doing. It's a really long answer. I don't know if you were ready for that long of an answer, but that would be my first step. It would be my first step, getting to know the person.
I am so grateful that it was such a long answer because I loved every minute of it. And I agree that it's so important to prioritize the autonomy, of others. Just with anybody, just in general, it's just a wonderful skill and approach to have. Um,
Yeah,
so
and you know what? And you know, Wade, it's just like anything else. Payton, you and I have talked a lot about the community of people who have hearing disorders. And even within that community, there's a camp. What you've taught me, Payton, is that there are some people who are like, you know what? I want cochlear implants because I want to be able to speak. Others are like, no, you know what? That's not all that important to me. I choose not to. I choose to be part of the deaf community. Maybe there's a better word for it, but speech isn't all that important to me because I have other ways of communicating. And so getting to know people and how they view their life and how communication disorders may or may not affect them. I mean, hey, Wade, it's just like anything else. It's like, hey, if you're Democrat, Republican, if you're Protestant, Catholic, if you're black or white, I mean, whatever. I mean, what's the first step? Try to get to know the person. You're going to find out eventually that you have some common ground. And once you get to know a person, regarding communication, you can go to plan B, C, D pretty easily without making either one of us feel uncomfortable.
awesome. So I guess, what would you say would be like the next step after that? Once we get to know, like, what are some ways that we could be more inclusive to those with speech or communicative disorders?
Ask them. I worked a lot with people with autism, and kids with autism, by nature of their disability, have significant issues with social skills and communication. And there's a spectrum. Some are more affected by autism, some are not. We have some people who are functioning at a lower level, some at a very, very high level. But socialization and communication are the hallmarks of autism. And so, these kids would be like really, really frustrated a lot. It's like, oh, I don't get it. Why are people laughing? I don't get the joke. Or when I say something, how come you're giving me this bad look? Like, You know, like I don't know what I'm talking about. And so frustration starts to build. And so, you know, what do you do with a good partner, like boyfriend, girlfriend, friend, colleague, or whatever? One of the best things to do is not to take charge, not to say, okay, well, this is how we're going to do all this. And, you know, we're going to orchestrate this meeting this way, and we're going to include you this way, and this is how it's going to work. So you're kind of thinking for them. Instead, what I would do for the people who may be your age or a little bit older who you meet on the street is once you get to know them, you say, okay, hey, listen, I've got this meeting. This is kind of in general how these meetings go. So how is this going to work for you? I'm going to ask you, how would you prefer this meeting to go so that you can feel inclusive? You give me the strategies. I invited you, so obviously I want you to be here. I love you being here, and you need to be here. But what I need to do is I need to learn from you about how I can adjust, how I can go to plan A, B, and C, and D. So there's not really a formula as opposed to a mindset or an approach. Ask the people, and you know what? They probably would say, nobody asked me. Wow, thank you for asking me. That's awesome. Thank you. And then you go, okay, now I know. Jack, stay here. Jack, here. Lay down. So, okay, that's on video. My dog's in my office, and he wanted to go out the door. So, hi everybody. My dog's name is Jack. He's in the room. So anyway, it's more of an approach way than anything else, you know. And so otherwise, you get kind of nervous, like, oh yeah, what am I supposed to do with people with aphasia? What am I supposed to do with people who stutter? Like, for instance, a person who stutters might be like, okay, now I might stutter. Okay, now what did that do? That might have made you feel like, oh, he's struggling, and so I need to jump in there and help him say the word that he's going to say. And that seems to be kind of a natural strategy because I want to help you. And people who stutter don't want to be helped. They're like, nah, don't help me. I want you to understand me. So they might say to you, just, you know what, just hang in there with me. I, 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 I have repetitions, but let me finish without jumping in and talking for me. I was like, oh, I can do that. That's cool. And they would love you for it. They'd be like, oh, thank you for asking. You know what I'm saying? That kind of thing. You know, people who like have aphasia, people who have aphasia, as an example, on Tuesday, they're walking, talking, having, you know, a normal life. Boom, they have a stroke. Tuesday night. Wednesday, their whole life changed. They can't think maybe as much as well as they were doing, very disoriented. They can't pronounce words, they can't remember words, things of this nature. This is a very, very frustrated crowd, especially like if you've had, know anybody, Payton, I don't know if you know anybody, Wade, anybody who has a grandma or a grandpa, maybe who's had a stroke, and they're very frustrated because what was very easy communicating is now very hard. So it's very likely that you want to help. Oh, grandpa, oh, I feel badly for you. Like, let me jump in and let me talk for you and things of this nature. You know, instead, you know, you just hold back, be patient, calm. Don't try to over talk. Don't try to provide all these different solutions. Just read the room. Maybe give them a pad and a pen, something to write on. How else can you communicate? Grandpa, if you can point, that's good enough for me right now. You know what? You know what, Grandpa? We don't have to talk. That's okay. just being here. Remember when we used to go out fishing and we didn't talk that much because we were just fishing? Okay, let's just hang out, have a cup of coffee, and let's not force the issue. So reading the room, reading the person, getting to know the person, because they're probably frustrated, and not trying to overhelp them, but let them tell you what works for them. That's like the number one strategy.
Thank you so much, Dr. Rydell.
Yeah. Yeah.
Peyton, did you want to ask anything in particular?
I did have one question. What is the most common misconception that people assume out of good nature about people with communication disorders? So they make the assumption and they think it's in good mind, but it's completely wrong, and you just want to debunk it right now.
I think that's a great question. So what's like the assumption that sometimes we make with people with communication disorders? I think one of the things is when we are parents or we see young kids grow up, their cognition and their language development is pretty much the same, and they just grow. And so what they assume is that, when you're talking, that represents your ability, your cognitive abilities. And so, and that's normal language development. Well, when people have communication disorders, many kinds of communication disorders, people tend to focus in a lot on and focus in like, oh, why can't you talk? Oh, do you have mental retardation? Is that why you can't talk? And in most cases, that's not the issue. Many of these people who have communication disorders are intact with a normal intellect, normal IQ. And so sometimes I see, Peyton, that they're getting treated like young kids, even though they might be, your age. You'd be like, oh, we need to treat them like a younger child because they can't communicate. No, they're just at the same level as we are. That this is a little bit broken right now. It's sprained, like a sprained ankle. I know you're a good soccer player. You just have a sprained ankle right now. And so you can't play soccer right now. So I think that's one of the most common misperceptions. They start treating people like they're less of who they could be, like you have mental retardation or something like that. And so, first of all, you don't talk about them in front of them, like I mentioned earlier, like they're a young child. You don't try to overly help them, like, like a mama bear. Remember, Peyton, we talked about that in class, don't be a mama bear, don't like do everything for them because they're going to resent you for doing that. And I think that's a really big misperception that a lot of people have. Because you can't communicate, you must have some sort of a cognitive delay. In some cases that is true, but in most cases it's not. Yeah. Confidence is a big thing. Wade, in our class last year, we went through a lot of different videos of people who had attention deficit disorder, who might have had a social anxiety, who might have had a learning disability, who might have had a hearing impairment, who might have had high functioning autism, things of this nature. And across the common theme across all of these individuals was oftentimes they lacked confidence. Because how do we greet people? If I came to a Beacon meeting, what do? We sit down and we start talking. And people with communication disorders, they're looking at everyone else as like, oh, it's so easy for you all to sit down and talk and socialize through talking. And I just don't have the confidence because I feel people are going to maybe judge me. And it's easier not to talk to you than it is to talk to you. And it's easier not to go to the Beacon Club than it is to go to the Beacon Club. I'm just making that up. I'm not saying Beacon Club, any club, you know, that kind of thing. And so confidence is a real big issue for a lot of people. So like, for instance, if you have attention deficit disorder and Wade, you're talking to me right now, I may not be able to keep focused on you to see what you're saying. And after 15, 20 seconds, I might go away and then I'll come back and then I might go away and I'll come back. And I'm trying really hard, but you can see that how that affects communication because I didn't hear everything you had to say. And now you ask me a question, I'm like, I missed it. Sorry. Could I have comprehended it? Sure. Did I have a receptive language problem? No. I had attention deficit disorder. I wasn't able to keep focused to be able to maintain a conversation or ask questions. So you can see where that could be a confidence in. We talked about people who stutter. So when I stutter, all of a sudden people like look at me or they might look away. You know, it's like, oh, I don't know what to do with that. You know, people are stuttering. I don't know what. And then you start taking a confidence hit if you have a communication disorder. And so being inclusive is so important because confidence is so important. And so, you know, leveling the playing field by asking them again, you know, what do you need? How can this be good for you? We want you here. I mean, I've even gone so far, Wade, is to play charades. Okay, you know what? Nobody's going to talk for the next hour in our meeting. We're not going to talk. All right. I just leveled the playing field. Everything we do in this meeting, not the whole meeting, maybe for half an hour, nobody can say a word. And you know what? That meeting might be one of the best meetings you ever have because everyone has to like really tune in and like understand each other and really focus on each other's you know, interactional and communication, nonverbal communication. So confidence is really, really a huge thing. And how do we get confidence? Well, we practice how to communicate with people who know and understand and love us. And that's the formula right there.
I couldn't agree more. Thank you so much, Dr. Rydell, for, you know, providing, you know, myself, Payton, and all of our members with, you know, the tools for inclusion and advocacy. So, you know, just once again, thank you for taking time on Friday to.
You are so welcome. You are so welcome. Wade, it's nice to meet you, Payton. It's always good to see you. And I hope this was useful. And you know, good luck with your meeting. Thanks for the invitation.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, doctor.